want to play a summoner but cannot decide which minions to use? Do you want to try a minion build but are not sure which supports and setups are needed to make your minions the strongest they can be? Don't worry, this build can use all minion types except skeletons because they really suck. It clears maps in hardcore extremely fast and can do Uberlab and map bosses without losing your precious summons. Welcome to my guide to the SRS Zombie Spectre, Mind Over Matter, Victario's Charity, Animate Guardian, Golem, Summoner. Now that is a catchy name. First, let's have a look at the endgame gear. Uniques you need for the build are Bones of Uller boots. These allow you to have an additional Spectre, boosting the amount of Spectres from 2 to 3. That's 50% more Spectre damage in AoE basically. Make sure you get 15% movement speed here, if possible. To compensate for the lack of movement speed, I run Val Haste and a Flash Offering, both linked with increased duration. Flash Offering gives us its benefits too, and not only to our minions, thanks to the Mistress of Sacrifice Necromancer node. The next one is the Victario's Charity Shield. Besides some added life and resistances, it also grants frenzy charges on hit and power charges on kill to all allies around the user. And thanks to the Necromantic Aegis Keystone, the user is all our minions. That means our minions supply each other and everyone else in the party with frenzy and power charges permanently. And those charges have way stronger effects on minions and monsters than they do on players. So this shield basically is our main weapon, as this is where a lot of our damage comes from. In return, we use our weapon for defenses. You can either use Aurum Vorax for easy resist capping, or if you are already capped, an Advancing Fortress is a good option to gain some block chance and a free Fortify link for your Whirling Blade's faster attack setup. With a freed up link you could then use for example Blind as an additional utility link. Lastly, this build uses 2 Essence Worm Rings. This allows us to run Anger and Haste without reserving any mana. This makes sustaining mana for SRS casting easier, as well as allow us to rely on Mind Over Matter as our main form of damage absorption. Every other piece just has life, resistances and mana where you can fit it in. You might however need a lot of dexterity on your gear to run a high level haste. The amulet and glove slots are good options for that. Also try to get some cast speed where you can, but it's not a very high priority. You should also get a helmet with +2 to socketed minion gems. On jewels, grab minion damage and minion resistance, as well as cast speed where you can. Life on jewels is very expensive, but of course very nice to have. Capping your minions' resistances is important if you want them to survive in higher maps, because your minions will not avoid obvious damage from bosses, such as a huge flame blast or something. You can help them out by casting Convocation every now and then to teleport all your permanent minions to you and maybe save them from an AoE nuke or make them catch up to you while you're clearing. But even with capped minion resists, high AoE damage encounters such as Aziri are still very difficult to do for a permanent minion summoned her using Spectres and Zombies. Once you got the Commander of Darkness Ascendancy node, you can drop some of those minion resistance jewels for other stats such as life, as it grants 20% all res to you and allies. Also running a low level Clarity once you acquire this passive can give you some cheap extra stats. Talking about permanent minions, these are the link setups I use. In the mentioned +2 to minion gem helmet, I socket Raise Zombie and Animate Guardian. The extra levels make them more tanky, and they are basically just the meat shields of the build. They are supported by minion life and Fortify to make them even more tanky, and the Flashbinder passive node from Necromancer also gives you and your minions 1% physical mitigation for each zombie you control. To set up your Animate Guardian, you get a Leercast helmet and a Dying Breath staff, a rare chest piece and rare gloves with resist and life, preferably on an armor evasion base, and boots with the same stats and some movement speed. Don't pay more than the chaos for each of those, just give him some decent stats. To equip the items to the Guardian, throw them on the ground and cast Animate Guardian on them. When you relog, you can just cast Animate Guardian on an empty spot to resummon the Guardian with the old items equipped. The items only get lost when the Guardian dies, which never happened to me before, or if you decide to equip new items to him by animating them. Leercast and Dying Breath will allow your Guardian to buff the damage of your other minions, as well as everyone else in the party. I also tried using the Ambu's Charge, unique chest piece, to provide my minions with endurance charges, but I never saw a single minion with an endurance charge the whole time I played this build, so from my experience, it does not work out very reliably. My links for SRS are Spell Echo, Minion Damage, Melee Splash, Melee Physical Damage, and either Minion Speed or Multi-Strike. Minion Speed is great for faster AoE clear, Multi-Strike improves your single target significantly. The Spectres are just 4 linked, with Spell Echo, GMP, and Minion Damage, which together with the Necromancer's Soul Weaver node makes them tanky enough and do obscene amounts of damage. The Spectres of choice are Flame Sentinels. They work best on a 4-link and offer the highest AoE clear because they are very spammy with their fireballs. For those of you who do not know how Spectres work, let me explain. You cast Raise Spectre on a monster corpse and get a minion of the same level as the dead monster. You can use the spell Desecrate to generate those corpses, so you do not have to hunt down the monster specifically. The level of the summoned minion is equal to the level of the corpse you animate, which will be the lower one between the maximum level of corpses your Desecrate gem can summon and the zone level. To get those level 68 Flame Sentinels, go to the Merciless Eternal Laboratory and cast Desecrate 3 times on the ground. Hold the corpse targeting key, which is by default the A key, to check the names of the corpses. If none of the corpses are Flame Sentinels, remake the zone, using the waypoint and control clicking the zone map. Repeat this until you get Flame Sentinels. Unsocket Spell Echo to make the Spectres. Corpse target them holding the A button, and don't forget to resocket Spell Echo afterwards. If you find higher zone level sentinels while doing maps, make sure to remake them into your new Spectres. They will be way more powerful than the old ones. Undying Incinerators are great if you find them in a map, but the problem with them is you cannot reliably get them at a high zone level from any zone during the game's progression. They do have insane damage output and great AI however, so if you happen to find them in a map, make sure to use them as your new Spectres. They use the same gem setup as Flame Sentinels. Other gems I use in the build are Lightning Golem, because cast speed is nice, and he gives a little bit of lightning damage to all our minions on a regular basis using his buff aura. Another setup I run is cast when damage taken, Immortal Call, just for added safety. On how to exactly level this build, have a look at my detailed explanation of the leveling process right here. Note that this build was heavily inspired by Angry AA's summoner build from Perandus League, so all credit for the underlying idea goes to him. It is a fantastic and awesome build, and I had great fun playing it. Subscribe for more Path of Exile content. Leave any feedback in the comments section below. I am Yoji, and I will see you soon.